listening to the Startup Scale Up Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to create meaningful businesses and pursue their passions. My name is SAMANDE and I am a furniture manufacturer, best known for documenting my move to Lagos, Nigeria for hopes of business opportunities. And I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs from across the continent to talk about their process, the lessons they have learned, and how to make real impact. Welcome to Susu. Hi guys, thank you and welcome to Startup Scale Up with me, SAMANDE. My guest today is Keturah Ovio. Have I said that right?
No, you didn't.
But how do I normally say it?
Keturah.
Keturah.
Yeah.
I always feel like I say it wrong though.
Yeah.
I do, right? So it's Keturah.
Keturah.
Not Keturah.
Yeah.
Keturah. And then Ovio.
Ovio.
Ovio. That's a powerful name, I've got to say.
Thank you.
So yes, guys, joining me today is Keturah Ovio. Actually, you don't mind me reading from my list, do you?
No, it's fine.
Because you got a lot of businesses, darling. So I don't want to make a mistake. So let me just read off my notes. So Keturah Ovio is the founder of Limestart, a smart commerce fintech solution for small businesses at the bottom of the pyramid. Limestart helps users to digitize their transaction records. She also previously founded Qeturah.com, an e-commerce platform for all things made in Africa. And a byproduct of that is FBQ, Fulfilment by Qeturah, which offers local and international door-to-door delivery service from and to Nigeria. Yeah, I'm a big woman.
By the grace of God.
We are grateful. So today, Qeturah, we're basically going to be talking about going from having an idea to now trying to scale that idea. So before we just kind of leap into that topic today, can you just tell us a little bit of how you started, why you started, and where you are today?
That's a lot of questions. So I would say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I actually just looked at people who started businesses as crazy. Like, why would you want to venture and start something when you could earn good money working for someone, closing at 5 p.m. and have your evenings to yourself?
That's an interesting assessment.
Well, I mean, look at all your employees now. They do close at a certain time and their brain is shut off until the next day. But you can't. You're constantly thinking. So my background is in software engineering. So I know I look nothing like an engineer.
You don't?
I know. I get that a lot. Yeah. So I used to build mobile apps, desktop apps, web apps, websites, be that cool person.
Super cool.
In Southeast Asia.
Oh, wow. Where?
Malaysia.
Nice.
So I used to work for a Japanese company. Before they exited, based in Tokyo, Singapore, Malaysia. And I was an engineer at the company. And one day, I thought to myself, it's all this, there's like basically China exploded in my eyes, right? Because I lived in Southeast Asia for 6 years and I saw how technology helped transform China's economy from what it was to what it is today.
That has been a leap, yes.
It has been a leap, quite a leapfrog. And I thought to myself, there are a bunch of diasporas like me living out of the continent and they can't access things that are made in Africa, things that can help them connect, can help them basically identify as African, as Nigerian. And when you do find these things, living abroad is usually overpriced. I'm sure you know that.
Yes, I'm very, very familiar.
And it pains you, because you're like, I know how much this thing is worth in Nigeria. Why am I paying through my teeth, just to buy this thing? And I was like, why has no one created a website where someone can literally just go and be able to buy, I don't know, earrings from Zimbabwe, I don't know, Maasai outfit from Kenya, nice. Nigerian outfit from Nigeria. And I was like, I could definitely build this, just build a website, tell people, do advertisements, and, people will come, right? So it started as a side, hustle.
Like a proper side hustle.
Basically.
But who goes into tech as a side hustle?
I just wanted extra money. Okay. I think, I wanted extra money that wasn't, I guess was some tech, but not too technical. So that's how I came about, starting an online marketplace or a listing platform that buyers and sellers of everything, things made in Africa, I can find it, right?
Yes.
So I try to run it living in Asia. And you know how when you need to get something done, you have to do it yourself. Yeah, so everyone I tried to contract to here to get stuff done just wasn't forthcoming. Like trying to figure out the logistics, like how to deliver, just to place calls to, you know, logistic companies. It took someone 2 weeks to get back to me. And that was really irritating.
Well, going into tech in Africa, it's very much still very disconnected, isn't it, in terms of tech anyway? So trying to establish a tech company, I can imagine why you'd have to do a lot of things yourself because, well, the services aren't necessarily out there yet. Yeah,
but in terms, I mean, the challenges I was having was the business aspect of things, not even the technical aspect of things, right? So like, you know, placing calls, you know, finding out information about, you know, XYZ. It was like, you know, the people outsourced to do these things just weren't efficient at doing it. And I mean, my background working with Japanese, efficiency, yeah,
that's like their first name.
Yeah, so
efficient Japanese.
It's a pet peeve when you're not, you know, on time. If you're 1 minute late, you're late, right? Like I remember, basically burning through cash, coming late to the office. I had legit reasons for coming too late, like, you know, traffic. I couldn't find taxis. I was living in a posh area. I didn't have a car, thinking I could still wing it with public transport. And I'll come late to work, and my boss got tired of hearing, you know, the excuse, and he was like, so anyone who comes to work late will buy everyone in the office Starbucks coffee. Now, you know, that's not cheap.
That's not cheap. So how often were you buying?
Well, when I bought 5 times in 2 weeks, I started coming, you know, I started waking up at 4 a.m. You know, just to get to the office.
When it's not Lagos, why are you waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning? Was it 4 a.m. in the morning?
Well, I'll get to work and sleep it off, or I could come late to work and then buy everyone coffee. So it was.
But what time did you have to start work?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. And how long did it take you to get to work?
Typically, it should take me less than an hour because I have to take the taxi, take a train, take a bus, walk some. I was living in a different city and working in another city, which were in 2 different states. But because public transport was efficient and it worked, you know, it made sense for me to live, you know, farther away where it was cheaper than close to the city center.
So how often were people buying you a Starbucks?
Not as I was the worst.
So it was on you.
Yeah. But to be fair, I lived the farthest away from everyone. Yeah.
So the reason why you started Qeturah.com, you wanted extra cash.
Yeah.
And you were tired of buying Starbucks.
No, not necessarily. I learned a lot working for them, working with them.
How long were you there for?
2 years.
Okay.
But it was more like I wanted to build something that would last, that would have, I guess, impact on individuals and, you know, small business owners. And at the time, I, you know, thought that, you know, creating a platform that helps small business owners to sell more was what, you know, was required. So I think I was at the point where I was sick of the entire continent of Asia. I was like, I need to move.
Were you a little bit homesick?
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Yeah, it was. So I had 2 options: move to Nigeria or move to the States and earn more money. So I changed. I had decided to move to the States, and then overnight I changed my mind to move to Lagos.
Just like that.
Just like that. So I moved to Lagos, and I was like, I'm going to give this 2 years. And if it doesn't work, like if there's no, you know, clear way on this thing, I'm going to just give it up and move to the States anyways.
Okay, so when you started Qeturah.com, that was with the purpose of starting in Asia or with the purpose of bringing it home to Nigeria?
Well, starting in Nigeria, so the thing is, if you want to start anything, you have to sort of pilot in the market somewhere. And, you know, serving the diaspora market, it's large. It's like, where do I start? Do I start in Europe or Asia or North America? Do I start, if it's Europe, do I start in London or Bristol or Manchester or Leicester? Or if it's America, should I go to New York or go to Boston or go to Atlanta or go to Houston? Like, where would you start? It's quite a big market, right? Okay. So you kind of have to start in a market where you can can spend a little money, get validation, raise money, to basically scale up or go global.
Okay.
If that's what scale up means to you at the time. So me coming here was more of like to test pilot here, get validation to see even if locals found it difficult to access these things, and then move on from there. So that's basically how I got started. Yeah.
Fabulous. So you started off with Qeturah.com. You tested it in this market here. How did you find the response? Was there a demand for this sort of service, did you find?
Yeah, there was a demand, and then there were challenges.
What were the challenges?
Challenges such as trust, buying online, paying with your card.
We're very much still there, aren't we?
I think we've improved. More people are digitally inclined now, and I guess to be fair, our banking systems are one of the best.
I absolutely agree with you. I think having grown up in England with that banking system, I would definitely say hands down, Nigeria probably has one of the most versatile banking structures that I've ever experienced. Even this morning alone, I just messaged, I WhatsApped, can you imagine, my bank officer. Is it my bank account officer? That's what they call it, right? And I said to her, I forgot what her name was. I think she's a new one that's been assigned to us. And I said, what's my account balance? And I was thinking she's going to go through and get back to me in a couple of hours. Within 2 minutes, she just sent me my account balance. And then an instruction was written up for her to sort of carry out for me without me having to go into the bank, without me having to send an email. It's just draft it with our internal accountant, send it off to her. Yeah. She takes care of it. Fantastic.
So I think at the time, trust, there was no infrastructure, and a lot of entrepreneurs like myself had started businesses to fix that, and a lot of them were returnees, people solving logistic problems, people solving payment, trust problems online. So it was like, and we're all at the very early stage. So a lot of that stunted our growth. We did get validation. How long did
it take for you to get that validation, would you say?
I would say within the first 4 to 6 months, we got.
Okay, that's super quick.
Yeah, so we got requests. We got people purchasing. Issue was delivering outside of Lagos. That was a hurdle.
So 4 to 6 months to get your validation. So having gotten your validation, what was the next step for you?
The next step was to try to scale up, right? To accommodate more, to be the platform that was scalable to accommodate more sellers, to accommodate more features that would basically automate processes.
Yes.
Also to try to raise money.
So would you say the raising money part is a very critical part of scaling up from a startup?
It is, especially when you're in tech. Yeah, not that if your business is great and sustainable, you don't need to raise external capital, then keep doing that. But if you're building a high growth startup that you need to grow really, really, really fast, then you need to raise money. And when you do, you should also be aware that you're building a different kind of business. You're not a small business, you're a high growth startup, and there's a difference. Yes.
So explain to us, what is the difference between the two?
A small business could be a business that funds your lifestyle, right? Something you own and keep in your family for years and years and years. Hopefully sometime, your kids or your family, it becomes a family business, basically. A high growth startup is designed from inception to exit. Now, what that exit can be many things. It could be a merger, acquisition. It could also be you go into the public market to raise more money. So people who go into business need to understand the fundamentals of these two kinds of businesses. And it's okay to build a lifestyle businesses. I mean, there are so many lifestyle successful businesses that have remained and stayed privately owned and are doing really, really well. So you don't need to raise capital if you don't need to. But it's just understanding that when you raise money from external, especially from institutional investors like VCs and PEs.
Okay, so tell some of our listeners what a VC and a CE is.
A VC is a venture capital. firm of venture capitalists. From the term, they want their capital back.
They don't play.
They don't play.
From my experience, they're very direct.
They are, and PE is a private equity, basically. So
that could be, for instance, friends, family, maybe other small businesses, hedge funds, and things like that. Yeah. Okay. So from the inception, when you were sort of thinking about your startup, which direction did you know you wanted to go in, or did you even know at all?
Well, I didn't know a lot of things, and I mean, to be quite frank, I was an engineer through and through, so I didn't have. So you're more the sort of the technical end of the business as opposed to the front end of business part. No, I was the technical, but then I became the business, and basically I am the visionary. So I had to learn everything that I know today by, I guess, reading and reading more and meeting people and having conversations and basically
asking the questions to things you don't know, right?
Basically
it's very, very important, because I feel like sometimes, a lot of times in business, when people they have an idea that they want to go into business, and then they're brave enough to sort of take that first step, but they quickly find themselves intimidated by a lot of the things that they do not know, and they feel as though, I'm not cut out for this because I don't know these things. And I always say to people, like, come on, you can't know everything. Nobody's born knowing how to run an investment fund. Nobody's born knowing how to run accounting or any aspect of a business. You have to learn it.
We're all learning. I'm a work in progress. We're all learning as we go. Half of the things everyone does, we don't know what we're doing. We just it's a hit and run. It's a trial and error.
I've been doing this now almost over 10 years, and I can tell you hands down, I do not know what I am doing. So I approach everything with the attitude of, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm constantly looking for ways to do things better, from the perspective of somebody who simply does not know. It helps. I think it definitely helps you to grow a lot quicker, and I think it kind of almost trains you not to be embarrassed by what you don't know. A lot of people are actually very embarrassed by what they don't know.
And I think once you get over that embarrassment, you'll be fine.
Absolutely, because the truth of the matter is, I can ask somebody, there's a point in which they didn't know. Even the person teaching me, there was a time when they also didn't know. And it's okay.
It's okay. So that's pretty much where we were. And raising capital at the time was hard. One, because our predecessors in e-commerce raised, and are still raising, a ton of money and burning a ton of money.
That's a different conversation for another day.
That's a different conversation. So it was hard, first of all, raising capital in a space, in an industry that hadn't really shown return on investment for investors. And we're talking 5 years ago, where we didn't have a lot of people or companies or firms that you could approach and say, hey, I want to raise money for this idea. That wouldn't say, oh, okay, I'm giving you money, so I want 80% of your business. Just buy the business then.
80%? That sounds ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, because they didn't understand what, I guess, startup investing is at the different stages and levels of which they come in. So it was
even they didn't understand.
They didn't understand. So they were basically traditional, rich Nigerians who understand how to do business. With, okay, I'll give you my money, give me 80% of your business, or I want my dividends from after 12 months or 24 months. Like, that is not realistic.
So they basically don't understand the concept of a startup,
the dynamics basically. So they just understand investing in FMCGs, where I give you 2 naira to make 2 boxes of shoes, and you sell those shoes and are able to make 4 shoes out of that money that comes out of it. They understand trading, but they don't understand startups and the art of investing in startups. So that was a challenge. And being a woman was also wasn't easy as well.
Oh, that's a difficult position
being female,
especially in tech.
Yes, being female in tech, first time founder, having founded, having lost money. The odds were against me. And, when we couldn't raise money, my co-founders at the time found other interests and went to seek paid employment. Everyone had to, I guess they had to do what was best for them at
to
the
survive,
time, which
right?
is fine.
So people pulled out,
and it was me. And I think it was more stubbornness of not giving up. And it was more of like, what have I learned over the years? What do I want to do now? You know, I think a lot of times what entrepreneurs later realize in life is you build businesses that suits your lifestyle. If you haven't realized this as an entrepreneur yet, I think you should think deeply about it. We basically build businesses that fit our lifestyle.
So just expatiate on that a little bit. So you know, in terms, is it the way in which you structure your business to support the lifestyle that you want, or the lifestyle you're currently living?
So you structure your business for the lifestyle you want. I think growth comes from uncomfortable places, so nobody really wants to build lifestyle unless you're there. But we build businesses in terms of structure the way we want to live our lives. And for me, and things that we're passionate or we want to be involved in. And for me, it wasn't really logistics. That's not why I moved here. It was more about, I mean, there's tech and there's heavy tech that can go into logistics. And there's a ton of money to be made from logistics as well. But it was more like where I think my true calling is, if there's anything like that, is I'm a strong believer that small businesses are going to be, you know, the corporates of tomorrow, right? And
of course, everybody starts off as a small business.
Everybody
right?
does. So it's more like, how can I use technology to solve problems that they're facing today? And what have I learned over the years? What problems besides logistics did I find that they have, and where is the $1 billion idea? I think that that last question was basically what made me, I guess, to almost move away from logistics. It was like, logistics is a lot of money, but you don't own the infrastructure. You're leveraging on the infrastructures that are already in place, and you're just building tech on top of existing infrastructures. And for me, it did not seem like a business I could exit at $1 billion tomorrow in the next 4-5 years. And
okay, so you didn't see the scalability in it?
Yes. For me.
Yes.
So I may be wrong, right? But this is a very personal and opinionated comment to make. So for me, that's how Limestart came about, because I was like, small businesses you look at the stats, 90% of all businesses put together are small businesses, which means small businesses are the largest employers of labor in any country.
Yes.
Nothing is different in Africa. And if you look at Nigeria, we're going to be the third largest country by 2030, I think realistically 2050, which means small businesses are still going to be highly relevant, and the way and structure and manner of doing business today is not sustainable. So something needs to be done, and tech can fix that. So that's how Limestart came about. That's how it started
about. Fantastic. Yeah. So where's Limestart today?
So we are, I guess, simply put, Limestart helps small businesses digitize their transaction records. Now, there's a lot involved in that. It simplifies it, doesn't it? Because when I was reading it, I was like, this sounds so easy, but I can tell already that there's a lot that goes into it. When we're talking tech, there has to be. So who's your target audience then for Limestart? Right now, we decided to go all the way down to the bottom of the pyramid. Why? Because there is a very difficult market to enter and to crack.
Explain for us, Qeturah, what the bottom of the pyramid actually means.
People who who are street vendors, people selling the open market. Because we went so low, a lot of investor conversations I've had in like, I love what you're doing. It's very hard. And
super ambitious.
I was like, but if you crack it, you crack it.
It's the largest segment of the market.
It is.
They're the mass market.
They are the mass market. And you know what they say, that if you want to make anything in Nigeria, in emerging countries, that's your market.
That's your goal.
I mean, look at the richest man in Africa, in Nigeria. What does he sell? Sugar, cement.
The most basic thing.
Indomie, exactly, salt. Everyone can afford it. Rich man, poor man, everyone can afford it.
More importantly, everyone needs it.
Everyone needs it. It's a need. It's not even a want. So for me, it was more like, what's the most difficult? And difficult sometimes can be good, because it means there's a higher barrier to entry in the market.
Yes.
So your competition might probably be very low. If it's an easy market, we have a copycat mentality in this country. So once you start doing it, everyone's going to copy and jump in.
But not everybody's willing to put in the work. I think that's your saving grace.
That's
almost.
Exactly.
Because most easy things are easier to copy, so therefore most people jump on it once they've figured out the formula.
Yes.
So I think it's, once you have the formula,
secret sauce?
Well, hold on to it.
No, I'm not going to say it. So it's for us, and that market, they're the most loyal.
Yes.
Because and they don't like change. So when something works for them, it works.
They stick to it.
I get
that. If you are a startup and you really want to go into a plan of scalability, what are the steps you should really be looking at in terms of things you need to put in place to ensure that when you are ready to scale, these things are things that you're already sort of working towards and sort of lining up like your eggs? So,
structure, good governance. Your company has to be registered. I don't think that's a conversation we should be having on this podcast.
Well, I would hope that people who have tuned into this podcast, I've already got registered companies, if they in fact do have companies.
Well, if you're in financial technology like I am, or big data, it's a requirement. So you do need to have good governance, not just being a registered company, but what kind of corporation are you? How are you structured? What's the structure for taking on additional partners, investments? What if you need to scale to Mozambique tomorrow? What's the plan for that? Where are your financials? Where are your projections? Who's on your team?
Team is very
important. Timing is also very important, right? Because I know I've been having conversations with a lot of people over the past couple of months. I've met people say, I know a company that tried to do this 5 years ago but didn't succeed. It'll be interesting to know why they didn't succeed.
Did they share with you?
Some don't. But it was it all came down to timing.
Okay.
Right. 5 years ago, internet penetration, digital know-how, was
in Nigeria or just across Africa?
In Nigeria, it wasn't as widespread as it today.
Okay, so if you could start your business over again, what would you do different? Or should I say, if you could start your businesses? Because you do have quite a couple. You have a few. And I know you've got another lingerie idea coming into it, and I'm really intrigued. I want to be a partner on that one, but we could talk more about that one later. But if you could, out of all the businesses you've started, if there's anything you could do different, what would you do?
So the first one, what I would do different, I would just make it a listing platform, not make it e-commerce. Okay. Just making it a Craigslist, basically. Okay. List, find, buy. Transaction don't have to happen on the platform. You figure out everything else in between, or we connect you with our partners. And just instead of focusing on revenue generated from sales, focus on the data generated from people talking. If I was to do it differently, I'll look at it from the big data angle and try to monetize from that way. That way I'm not so focused on, I need to make sure all the transactions flow through me because that's my only source of revenue or my main source of revenue. And that's the same thing I'm doing with Limestart now. Like looking at it from a data angle helps me see it from a bird's eye view, how this can be monetized better. So that's what I'll do differently.
How do you feel about social media in terms of scaling businesses? What's your position on that? So
my position is not every business needs to advertise on social media, but every business does need a social media presence or an online presence, right? Some businesses, you don't need marketing efforts. Your marketing efforts is more like establishing, market presence, becoming an authority in your industry. That's what your marketing efforts would be, because your product is something that is a sales first approach, right? So I think understanding the dynamics of your business and what is best suited for your business is great. So for me, I'm targeting for now, right, bottom of the pyramid. I'm not going to spend money on Instagram ads.
Because they're not on there.
They're not on there. Yeah. And even if they are, they're not there to look for. Do you get what I'm saying?
For that product.
But if I'm building a PayPal or a Stripe, for example, I'm definitely going to spend heavy on Instagram and Facebook because those are my customers, right? Or an escrow wallet, for example. I'm going to advertise the heck out of social media because transactions happen on what we call social commerce. So people who transact on the social platforms. Those are where my market is. That's my market. So I think understanding and being realistic with like what kind of business am I building? Is it a marketing first approach or is it a sales first approach? And then knowing how to utilize social media to benefit you That would be great.
All right, fantastic. Qeturah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you today.
It has been.
It's gone, I want to say it's gone quick, but let me be honest with you, we've been sitting here sweating for a while, haven't we?
It's been hot in here.
We've been hot. So rather uncomfortable, but we got through it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Startup Scale Up has been an
Susu.
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 We're still trying to see if that name's going to catch on. So I guess we're leaving it to the audience, really. You guys choose. Are we Startup Scale Up or are we Susu? Or are we both? Whatever tickles your fancy. I'm not that heavily invested just yet. So I'll let the choice be yours. So thank you again for tuning in, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure having you today. And as usual, please have a fabulous week and be extraordinary in the way that only you can be. Take care, guys. Bye.